Yo, what is going on? It's your boy, Larry Long Jr. back again. Oh, I love it. This little LinkedIn live, Facebook live, YouTube live pop-up session. Oh my goodness. I've been waiting on this for the last 2 weeks. So thankful. We talked about it before Thanksgiving, but I got a great colleague, a special friend of mine joining. Let's give a warm welcome to Jordana Zeldin. Thank you for joining, Jordana.
Guys, thank you. Glad to be here.
Now, before we get started, and thank you so much for joining, anyone who's tuning in, go ahead and just put your name and where you're tuning in from in the comments. If you have any questions, please submit those. I see we got some people coming in. Double K with the fast pitch. You're in the right place because Jordana's company is called Springer Training. So I had to bring out my bat. The Dodgers and the Red Sox, they cut me. But I think Jordana might let me join the team. So Jordana, if you can, introduce yourself. Who is Jordana? What are you about? What are you working on? Give us all the details of what's going on.
Okay. So hi, everyone. I'm Jordana, and I am a sales coach and the founder of my own coaching consultancy called Springer Training. And it's funny, it's early days, and I've been thinking a lot, like, what is it that I do that's different from every other coach and trainer out there? And I've really hit on a theme that has kind of tracked throughout my entire life, way before sales, and I'll get into that in a bit, which is that I think a big part of what I do is that I help my clients, be they, one-on-one sellers or teams, really kind of keep a check on their humanity in their selling, right?
Like that.
And make sure that they, the imperfect, full human being, are showing up to the conversation, that they are treating their prospects as fellow human beings as well. And that it's in that authentic connection, that vulnerability even that might come out, that a real relationship can form. And I'm not just talking about talking about sports or the weather or like what you did on the weekend. Like, that's rapport. And I know we'll get into this in a bit, Larry, but I'm talking about like something more substantial, a deeper relationship where kind of trust and openness, transparency can flourish in your selling conversation, so that you and your prospect can figure out if, what you're selling is actually going to be a fit for their needs. So that's a little bit of what I'm working on now.
I love it. Now I checked the Carfax, and we've talked before, but share with our viewers, because your path to where you're at today is so unique. I've never, ever, 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 ever met someone who's had the path that you followed. Take us on that journey.
Okay, so I started out wanting to be an actor. So that's not that uncommon in sales, but soon transitioned into realizing that where my sweet spot really was in the theater was as a director.
Yep.
And I moved to New York City after going to college to be a director. And somehow, and this is for an entire other LinkedIn Live, I kind of tripped and fell out of the theater world and rather into the fine art world. So I was working with emerging visual artists. I was running a nonprofit arts organization, curating a gallery, selling art, basically, helping to mentor and develop emerging visual artists. And my kind of entree into B2B selling was through this venture-backed art technology startup called Artsy. And they were hiring their first B2B hires, and they weren't looking for B2B experience. I had none, but they were looking for domain expertise. Like, could their sales team speak to their ideal, their ICP, which at the time was gallerists. So I was brought on, and that was really my entree into B2B sales. And I have to say, Larry, and I've shared this with you before, I, in the early days, had a pretty uneasy relationship. I was almost embarrassed by the idea of actually being in sales, and it was hard for me to reconcile all of the yucky baggage that exists in the world about what it means to be a salesperson, with me, like Jordana, trying to help galleries and help their businesses to really thrive. And it's been a long, evolution over about 6-7 years now of coming to realize that, like, the qualities that I admire most in great people, empathy and curiosity and listening and teaching and helping, right? Those actually do belong in your selling. And I think once I realized that and realized how aligned great selling is with my own values, I wasn't only happy to stay, I really wanted to dig in. That's what's kind of kept me in the game.
That's amazing. Now you left some stuff out. You left Artsy, Where did you go? And then what are you doing now?
Yes. You're right. So that was the entree to B2B. But so then what I started doing at Artsy, once I kind of hit my stride as a top performer on the team, was I started kind of naturally gravitating towards helping my teammates and developing them and coaching junior hires and coaching my peers. And I started to realize that the fulfillment that I felt from their wins or helping to enable their wins was actually greater than any satisfaction that I had felt from my own as a seller. Yep. And that's when I decided, like, oh, I think I want to be a sales coach. And I had no idea really how to go out into the world and make that pivot and do it. But I found my way to a really amazing sales training organization called Sales Gym. And that's actually, I think we met when I was working at Sales Gym, Larry.
I was trying to work out. I was trying to get my pump on.
Yes. Well, they take a really distinctive approach to training in that they take their cues from how athletes develop their skills and musicians and performers. And it's really, really practice and rep based. And I saw how effective that is and can be. And when I was laid off due to COVID and the company, downsized, most of the coaches left and a couple of the founders went their separate ways. I had the kind of option to either go into a sales training role within an organization or start my own thing. And I just felt like this was the moment to start my own thing. And that is what I'm doing now.
Wow. So tell me about your own thing, Spring Training. And this is near and dear to my heart. Let's rewind back to the year was 2001. I go down to Florida, Boston Red Sox, LA Dodgers, spring training with one eye, spring with one eye training. And they told me to hit the road, Jack. Talk to me about your spring training. And can a brother get in? Can I get in?
Yes, you're already in. A. B. So it's interesting, as I've been thinking about, like, well, what is spring training? And again, what really distinguishes what I'm doing from what everyone else does. So the athletic piece, once you see how effective practice can be, it's like you can't unsee it. And the origins of the name spring training with two eyes, as you said, are born right out of my commitment to kind of carrying that practice-based kind of ethos into my work. But the two eyes represent something else. It's not just about spring training and baseball. It's like you and your coach, those two eyes, but it's also you and your prospect. Wow. And it's and if you want to get really deep and nerdy, it's also like blades of grass, like growing, right? Like the spring of something that really has the potential to develop. I mean, there's a lot that I was thinking about with spring training, but again, I keep coming back to the idea that, the selling relationship between a buyer and a seller is a relationship. No matter if you are a relationship-based seller or if you're a challenger, whoever you are, it's undeniable that it is a relationship, and the same kinds of rules that apply out in the world outside of selling when it comes to developing trust and psychological safety and laying the groundwork for transparency and openness. We need to take our cues from what works out there and bring that into our selling conversation. So that's a big part of what I work with clients on.
Wow. You learn something new every day. I did not realize. I know you and your coach, you and your prospect, but the blades of grass, woo, that was deep. You triple clicked on that. I love it. That's that's a gold Mike Award right there.
My husband, he was like, not everything has to mean everything. And I'm like, I know, but for me, I really connect with this idea. And that's why, in my LinkedIn name, there's like a little kind of spring, like a little sprout. And part of that for me really connects to the fact that, when I was kind of coming up in the professional space, I really felt like I needed to present myself as this kind of like finished product, like this fully blossomed flower who knew what I was doing, who belonged in the room. And I think part of my evolution, and I think this connects to how I coach sellers as well, is that no, it's way better to show up as a person in progress. Yep. Not as the sealed fixed thing. And for me, the idea of, yesterday 2 days ago, I'm prepping a workshop for sellers next week. It's my first kind of public training offering. I had a dress rehearsal with you and people who I really respect, who are kind of intimidating to me in the field. But the idea is to welcome all of you in and not to show you like what a badass I am, but rather to bring you into my process as I'm working it out. And that has been far more fruitful than feeling the need to put on a mask and wear a facade.
Well, number one, you are a badass. Number two, that was absolutely amazing. I think it's the power agenda, the power of an agenda. To everyone listening in, this is your action item. This is your homework. Go check out Jordana on LinkedIn. go check out her page. Tell us about the workshop that's coming up soon.
Okay, thank you. So this is a workshop. I'm hosting it next week. It's Wednesday at 1 p.m. It's 1 hour long. And it's called the Power Agenda, and it's built on this idea. So, it's just an inherent fact that prospects are a little wary of us as sellers, right? And, we can do our job building quote unquote rapport and, talk about sports and the weather and all of these things. Yep. But if we are to get our prospect to a place of real openness, real transparency, vulnerability, and honesty, so that we can actually learn what we need to learn in order to determine if we can solve their problem, right? We need to do something else beyond rapport. And my hypothesis, and this has been playing out pretty well for clients that I'm working with, is that it actually begins with our agenda. And it's not just any agenda, it's a very specific kind of agenda that incorporates, elements and even language that are designed specifically to target and turn up the volume on some of those good emotional feelings of safety, right? So that we can have the kind of conversation that we need to have in order to see if we can be a fit for them. So it's a 7-step framework called Disarm with 2 S's. Spring Training, 2 I's, Disarm with 2 S's. that sellers are working through in order to disarm, right, their prospect as soon as they can early on in the sales conversation to have a more fruitful conversation later on.
I got to tell you, it was absolutely phenomenal. And essentially what happens is it was great content, but I had a demo that I joined one of my reps later on. And essentially we didn't do the whole disarm, but pieces of it we were able to incorporate, and it makes such a world of difference. You talked about the psychological safety. You talked about disarming, because people are on high alert. When a sales rep comes in, they're always selling. I call it always helping. But most people they feel some type of way when a sales professional comes in the house. And I love just the structure that you provided, as well as the opportunity to role play, to do it ourselves, as well as to see others do it, and to learn, iterate, and test. Make sure you're there on Wednesday. I think that's the 9th, December the 9th at 1 o'clock.
Now, here's the thing, guys. There's 1 spot available left. It's $27. However, there is a wait list, and I'm hoping that if enough people join the wait list, or I'm hoping that enough people, show interest so that there's a wait list so that I can then offer them another session. So I want this to be something that's ongoing, not just once. Maybe it's every month, maybe it's every couple of weeks, depending on the response. But if you want that 1 seat to be yours, it's available.
I love it. I strongly encourage any professionals, business professionals, sales professionals, the Power Agenda. It's hot like fire. Hot like fire. $27. What is that? That's lunch 3 days. Come on now. You got to invest in yourself. I love it. Jordana, as we wrap up, and I'm going to open it up, any questions from the audience, but I want to hear from you, because I know you're closely tied in to what's going on in the sales community. What trends? What are some of the trends that you're seeing? And what are some of the expectations you have in the world of sales as we get into 2021?
So it's funny. It just so happens that the trends that I'm seeing are very much in line with what I'm very excited about in selling. But I think, and this is not a new thought, right? But I think that COVID has kind of grounded and humanized all of us kind of by default. I mean, most of us are working, out of our bedrooms, or our cats and kids are coming in, whatever it is. Like, there's no longer as clear a separation between, work life and life as there has been before. And I think that in itself has been really good for business in a weird way, at least for the relationship side, and has been really disarming. So what I'm hoping, I'm seeing a lot more, I don't know, it's like the fronts are gone. There's like a kind of casualness and a shared humanity that I'm seeing expressed in my own selling conversations and the kind of conversations that my clients are having with their prospects. But my hope is that when things return, to something resembling normal, if they return to normal, that does not go away. Like, that is something that I want us all to, hang on for dear life to, because I think that is only going to, not only make us just happier in business, right? Because no one wants to feel like, we all want to connect, right? But is also going to make us as sellers, more fruitful in our conversations as well.
I love it. I love it. Taking it back to humanity. Twazanga, former Duke football player. He's one of my colleagues. Loves the person in progress notion. Oh, you're touching folks. Keaton, who's a former baseball player. We're gonna have to get him. I'm gonna have to get him 99 cents. Yeah, we'll get him in that class. I know he could certainly benefit from it. And it looks like C-Dub, he backs up Twazanga as well, loving the person in progress. Jordana, we're about to wrap, but I've got 2 questions for you. I'm gonna start with number 1.
Okay.
If you could rewind back and go back to the new sales professional, the brand new sales professional, Jordana Zeldin, what one piece of advice would you tell yourself? What do you know now that you wish you knew then?
Okay, so I hate to be a broken record, but when I started in sales, I felt like a salesperson was something other than me, and that I needed to put on a different way of being. I needed to speak differently, and that was not serving my selling conversations. It was not fun. It was depleting. It was exhausting. I was not getting the results that I wanted. When a head of sales who had some real experience came onto our team of very green sellers, he was the one who told us, like, Jordana, the person you are when you hang up the phone, when we're joking around in the sales pit, when you're on the phone with your friends, that is the person who belongs in your selling. And once that, I mean, it was like a switch, Larry, like once that switch turned on in me as a seller, I mean, I skyrocketed and I felt, the confidence that I experienced, the new confidence that I experienced in my selling translated to my life. Like life felt better when I brought myself to my work. So that is what I would advise any new seller to allow to happen in their selling.
I love it. I love it. I got to say, I didn't hit many home runs, but you just hit a home run with that piece of advice right there. As we wrap, where can our viewers, where can they find you? Where can they connect with you?
LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. My website is still in development. I have a company page, Spriing Training with 2 I's. And yeah, DM me, message me. I'm just, Larry, it's so great to chat with you, and your support and friendship has just meant so much over these last months.
Likewise, the feeling is mutual. Super awesome to have you on board. Thank you for joining me. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. We had people from all over the U.S. I think we had a few international folks. Just greatly appreciated. So wishing everyone the best. Please check out the Power Agenda next Wednesday, December the 9th at 1:00 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a great weekend. Make it a great rest of your day. It's your choice. We'll see everyone on the flip side. Peace.